Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. Joyce, we're back here in the daylight. We last did this. It was middle of the night. We were recapping Critics' Choice Awards and BAFTA Awards.
And yeah, we sprung ahead, and there's still daylight out because we have an extra hour.
So we're recording this on Wednesday. Oscar voting opens Thursday. So if you're watching this on Thursday, Oscar voting is happening right now. When we talked on Sunday night, we were both very enamored or enthused by Jane Campion's just DGAF speech at the Critics' Choice Awards. And then
yeah, I mean, it was like off the cuff, awkward as hell. And then yeah, it took a turn.
And it took a turn like immediately. Just a flashback. We want to talk about this quick before we go into a lot of stuff. Oscar voting on PGA Awards, WGA Awards. The show itself, continues to be a fun disaster. But on her speech, she was just talking to Venus and Serena Williams, which we talked about as totally hilarious, and she did not seem to just extemporaneously off the dome talking to them. She said, "Venus and Serena, you're such marvels. However, you don't play against the guys like I have to." And it got cheers in the room. It did. It was awkward for sure. And then
so before that, if you watch the whole speech,
yes,
she opens it by praising Halle Berry and praising Venus and Serena and asking for tennis lessons and inviting Will Smith.
Correct.
And then she goes into her thank yous.
Right.
And she starts mentioning her category being up against men. And that's when she circles back to them. And I will say, when she started doing that, I was like, where are you going with this?
I also
finished her thought. And I was like, this is very clunky, but I get what you're trying to do here, which is like girl power, down with the men, down with the patriarchy. And then I actually, while we were recording on Sunday, I saw that tweet circulate because they isolated that quote and it looks real bad by itself with no context.
Pretty rough. Bad. She tried to do the Kendall Roy going into the event, going F the patriarchy, but it didn't really work.
Like that. I got what she was doing. And see, the thing is like if you substitute like Venus and Serena for, let's say, like Jessica Chastain, who won Best Actress, like you could see what she was trying to do, because it would be like, Jessica, you don't have to go against these men because it's Best Actress against women, not Best Actor, you know?
Right. Just so
yeah.
Not necessarily.
It was a flop joke.
It was definitely a flop. It definitely caught fire on social media. Now, in the aftermath of that, she was photographed at the Netflix after party with Venus and Serena, and they were at least allegedly dancing. Who cares? That was at a party. So we don't know really what Venus and Serena actually thought. But anyway, like cut to like less than, I would say like 12 hours later, she released a very an apology. I'll read it to you, Joyce. Just we're going over this, even though I feel like the whole world has moved on from this, but I feel it's because we talked about. Here's her apology.
Twitter's not a real place, so
true. I made a thoughtless comment equating what I do in the film world with all that Serena Williams and Venus Williams have achieved. I did not intend to devalue these two legendary Black women and world-class athletes. The fact is, the Williams sisters have actually squared off against men on the court and off, and they have both raised the bar and opened the doors for what is possible for women in this world. The last thing I would ever want to do is minimize remarkable women. I love Serena and Venus. Their accomplishments are titanic and inspiring. Serena and Venus, I apologize and completely celebrate you.
So I thought that if you, so the thing is, there were so many people who just saw that quote by itself.
Yes.
And I would say not all of them went back and watched a full speech for more context. Because if she had just started her speech with that, yeah, like yikes for sure. But I think it's kind of clear if you watch the whole speech that she admires them, and she was trying to dunk on men, and it made it seem like she was dunking on them.
It was rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also when she said that, I was like, well, mixed dubs. But I think in her mind, speaking off the cuff, she was just thinking about singles, which is true. They just face off against women in singles.
I'm also going to guess, Joyce, not to besmirch Jane Campion at all. I don't know if she's the most, I don't know how much she did say she took up tennis and she's into it, but I'm like, I don't know how much nuance, does she understand it as much? Like who's competing against who?
No, not for sure. No. So. I think she was trying to just, she might have been a little tipsy as well. Like that night.
Who can say?
Like
they fed them
the good version of an off the cuff speech was Kieran Culkin's. and the bad version was hers, because it was like awkward from beginning to end.
It sure was. So now I guess if we're gonna read the tea leaves, that was a great up and down weekend for Jane. She started by just trashing Sam Elliott, got a lot of like huzzas on the social media.
She got the full Twitter experience in 24 hours.
And then
she was
just
like
nuked.
Twitter queen and then canceled.
Right. So now probably no bearing on the actual awards, right? We're going to come off of the Critics' Choice Awards. Power Dog remains seemingly a strong front runner here. Obviously, we have the PGA and WGA Awards this weekend. So if Power Dog wins at the PGA Awards, it seems likely then that we could expect it to win at the Oscars, right? It'll be a preferential ballot,
because that's the thing. That's what everyone is like saying its Oscar hopes hinges on. Like, can it win on a preferential ballot?
So
it's the same thing as last year, but like Nomadland.
Explain to me, who's a dummy, why that's important for what we're going to see here. The preferential ballot.
PGA is the only other award show that uses a preferential ballot, like the Oscars.
Right. And so Power Dog has not had to compete with Coda on a preferential ballot, and really has only competed against Coda, I guess, at the Critics' Choice Awards and the Globes. And the Globes, before Coda was the thing, and the Globes don't exist.
Yeah. So, and then it's won like, a ton of Critics Awards. I don't know, there's like 100 of them, so I don't know how many of them nominated Coda, but Coda has not won a lot of Best Picture awards. Right. And it's like the only place, I guess the only category where they've actually competed, and again, not a preferential ballot, then was Critics' Choice Awards for Best Picture, and then Critics' Choice Awards Best Adapted Screenplay, and BAFTA's Best Adapted Screenplay. Right? That's really it. Those are the only places where they've gone head to head, because Coda won at SAG without a Power of the Dog to face. And then the adapted screenplay. PGA, Sean Hayter was not nominated. Correct. So this is really, I guess, the show. This is like not the last stand for Coda, because I do think it's a weird year. And like I've said many times, I think people are catching up with it late. I think they went back and watched Coda. And like you have said, it's very watchable movie. And so it's very easy watch. And I think people are enjoying it, right? And they're enjoying the emotions that it's eliciting, the tears and the laughs. And that's really what you're getting from Coda. And so, like, I'm not sure it'll definitely be over, but I do think that Power of the Dog has the edge. Now, Joyce, so for PGA, when we start there, I still have Power of the Dog winning. I put it in there when we did these months ago, whenever it was, and I have not moved off. I'm going to stick with Power of the Dog. I still have Power of the Dog. I need to change the rankings under it, but I'm going to stick with Power of the Dog. I updated my rankings. I have Coda 2, I have West Side Story 3, King Richard 4, and Belfast 5. Those are my top 5. Yeah, like I'll put Coda in 2. Although like it's so hard to say exactly how much of like the buzz and hype around Coda is real. Right. We won't. I don't think we'd really know until this, right? I think if it wins, unless because even if it loses, you still don't really know. Like it would have to win for us to know for sure. And it could, it definitely, I could, like I said, I could see it winning. I don't know, like all the stats that we're going to throw out where it's like, Coda would be like literally a once in a lifetime. If it ends up winning Best Picture, it will, it's missing so many things. Cause usually when you have these upsets, like a Green Book, and you get like Parasite even, but like they had like the other nominations you need, like they might be missing one thing, but they hit mostly everything else. And Coda is missing a lot of things. It is. No directing, no editing, no DGA. Right. A lot of things. So we've talked about this, and like I think it is a very in the battle versus Power of the Dog. I thought like and not to put words in your mouth, but you said this, like it is like Power of the Dog is more of a an international vibe, and Coda is very American, or American focused, right? Like in the sense that it just seems like it's like a mainstream American movie, right? Where a Power of the Dog maybe has more international, the irony being that Coda is a remake of a French film. Correct. So that is ironic, and obviously Power of the Dog is all about the American West, even though, as Sam Elliott said, it was shot not here, so that makes it invalid for him for whatever reason. But I guess the one thing I would say about Coda is, and I don't know how you would tell this really, I guess I could just be told, who knows, but I look at it and I wonder,
did a lot of, we've been saying like Power Dog obviously had broad international support and like has the most nominations. Clearly, a lot of the branches loved it. I just wonder how many people actually watched Coda before the nominations, and obviously enough to get it in. And it was a strong passion pick because like it got in. So it probably had like a lot of top votes. And it was, you know, a strong contender for Best Picture, and it got Troy in and it got adapted screenplay, but it didn't really land anywhere else. And I do wonder, as more people visited who are Academy members, if maybe that was one they put off or didn't see, and who knows what kind of reach Apple TV has around the globe, since it's not like, you know, Netflix. Are we like undercutting? If the nominations were like now, would Coda have more nominations? I guess would it have had an editing nomination or a DGA nomination or a director nomination? I mean, I don't know. I probably not, but maybe. And then maybe we're like discounting the broader Academy support for it that it has now compared to when the nominations happened. That you wouldn't be able to tell that, but I mean, am I just insane for thinking that?
I mean, I definitely think more people are checking it out now on the back of its recent wins. But it's not a late film. Like, it wasn't like it came out and this, like, it's been like
Months.
I mean, it premiered at Sundance last year. Like, people knew it existed even if they didn't watch it for like 9 months. And
right.
It premiered in August, and they've been campaigning since August.
Right.
So it, and like Marlee Matlin was like everywhere, you know.
Right.
And I feel like she should have been like an easy nomination somewhere. Like, she should have gone into SAG. And I feel like actors like this movie the most.
Yes.
Like, they're emotional creatures. We know that, you know.
And we've seen a lot of the actors have said they've been crying.
They cried. It. Yeah.
So we'll see at the PGA Awards. I think Power Dog remains the front runner for sure.
Yeah. So, and the thing is like, I do think, and, you know, it got the writing nomination and everything, but like outside of those two branches, we don't really know how the rest of the Academy feels about it. And you could say because it didn't nominate it anywhere that it's like rejecting it in the way that, you know, they rejected Spencer, but Spencer is also a lot more polarizing. Like, this is a crowd pleaser, like right. Through and through. So, but I think, you know, like I think people in those branches, like the crafts branches, watched the movie. Like, I don't think like 0 people watched it. And I still don't, it's not like a craft heavy movie, but yeah, it should be able to maybe get song at least. Like, that's the whole premise of the movie. Like, she's trying to go to music school and she sings songs in the movie, you know? And like maybe even editing, but I wouldn't have expected to get anything else. And it's not really that type of movie. And when you talk about the movie, like, you know, this not a knock on it, but no one really talks about the crafts of the movie, like not the editing, not the cinematography at all, you know, not even the directing really. It's all about how it makes you cry.
Right.
You know. So I guess we'll see. So then like the other thing is like, this is PGA producers, right?
Right.
And then so like one of the you know, the arguments against a Power of the Dog win is like streaming Netflix. But now since like Coda has been surging, it's not really getting that same argument against it because it's the underdog. And even though it's on Apple and people are just kind of like, LOL, what if Apple wins Best Picture before Netflix, like the Emmys on Hulu won series first before Netflix, you know? And it's like, Apple is also a streaming service. Like, is there no Apple bias? Like, I know like the Netflix thing is completely different from Apple, but they're both still streaming services. And, you know, one big difference between how they each came on board the films is like Netflix was with Power of the Dog from the beginning. Like it acquired it before it was even filmed. So it was backing it from the very start. Whereas Apple bought Coda after it was a huge hit at Sundance for $25 million.
Right.
So it was
you could argue not overpaid because obviously it's done incredibly well and is like in the conversation here 15 months later, but definitely probably went higher than Netflix, obviously, than all the other streaming services did because of, they kind of had to, because of like the underdog status of Apple TV, even though it's Apple, which is like Apple. It's like a pretty big brand, Joyce. I don't know if you know this. Apple has got like
I've never heard of it before.
Big market share on phones. So that's Best Picture for PGA. any idea, any concept, if Bell, and no, none of these other movies have any shot here, right? No offense to these movies, but like, there's no way that we're gonna wait. We're gonna watch this.
I mean, I think we should be predicting being the Ricardos.
Yeah, certainly. That's got such
Really?
a broad
Yeah, come
support,
on, let's
right?
go. Yeah. Yeah, I like, I think people for the longest time thought Belfast was number 2, but it hasn't won anything really. Like its biggest win so far is Best British Film at BAFTA. It couldn't even win screenplay there.
Right. But one screenplay, it won Best Ensemble, and at the
it won 3 awards at Critics' Choice.
Yeah.
2-time Critics' Choice Award winner Jude Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. So
not industry though.
Joyce, let's go through these PGA nominations. PGA, we could go through our winners, I guess, quick. So animated is next. That I feel like has turned into a bit of a scrum now. I've been way out. I felt like Encanto had like kind of swarmed the field, but I'm like Mitchell's versus the Machines has hung tough, and I could see it. If it wins here, I think it will win at the Oscars. But I still have Encanto in first, but I think it's neck and neck now.
I still have Encanto, so I still think that's bigger than Mitchell's versus Machines, even if you might think Mitchell versus Machines is the better movie.
Yeah. I think Mitchell's versus Machines probably is the better movie overall, but I mean, it doesn't have the songs that Encanto does. It's tough. Obviously, all the songs in Encanto are, as we said, all bangers, but Mitchell's versus Machines does not have that many bangers. It has a Rihanna song, so that counts maybe as a banger.
And I mean, like, well, last year was Soul, so that was easy, and then the year before, it's Toy Story 4.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's close.
I feel like Disney just dominates this. I think, like Spider-Verse definitely won, but that was a phenomenon.
Right.
So it be like Incredibles 2 and everything. So
right.
And I don't think Mitchell's versus Machines is a phenomenon. No offense. I really enjoyed it, and I love the animation.
Really fun. I appreciate that they're keeping it in the conversation. For documentary, Joyce, I have Summer of Soul winning here. How about yourself?
Same.
Feels like I think that's kind of wrapping up personally, but I guess we'll see. Flea obviously is a strong contender for 2.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like Questlove, he lost the DGA, but he rebounded with BAFTA.
Mm-hmm. And Critics' Choice. So
yes.
Now, do you want to go through these TV nominees quick, or should we go to WGA and then circle back to TV at the end?
I don't know. What should we do?
Why don't we go to WGA since we're just sticking on film stuff? So WGA, obviously, the nominees were a little different.
A lot of ineligible films. Correct.
A lot of ineligible films, but the original screenplay still kind of did a decent job, at least 3 for 5. So Licorice Pizza, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Being the Ricardos, and The French Dispatch are nominees. No Belfast, no what's the 5th nominee, Joyce? How am I blanking on it? At the Oscars.
Worst person in the world.
Right. No worst person in the world. So obviously Being the Ricardos here would win, right? No. Sorry.
I mean, the guilds do love Sorkin more than Ampus, so. But I think it'll be PTA.
Seems likely to be PTA here. Now that sets us up for PTA versus Kenneth Branagh again at the Oscars. PTA won at the Critics' Choice Awards, right?
No, PTA won BAFTA. And Kenneth won
Critics' Choice Awards. And PTA will probably win WGA. Kenneth cannot win WGA. And then we line up for that as a knockdown drag out battle at the Oscars. I still think the Oscars are going with Belfast. I'm going to end up picking Belfast there probably.
I mean, at this point, that category is Belfast's best chance for a win.
So I think probably the only place it could win. Yeah. Right. So probably the only place it could win. Definitely overall the stronger movie at the Academy. Licorice Pizza only had 3 nominations, and Belfast had 7, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think I'll just stick with, like, if PTA wins WGA, I'll just stick with him for an Oscar. So
I mean, we'll see if it happens. I don't know. I just think, like we've talked about, I'm always like, I don't know if these movies can go home empty-handed, and they did seem to like Belfast, but time and again, they do go home.
People were like, can Irishman go home empty-handed?
And it did.
Visual effects. I'm like, why? Why would you do that?
And it happens all the time. So I am always I feel like I'm a moth to a flame on that. I'm always like, they liked it enough to
You
nominate
just
all
want
these
everyone
times.
to win something, and I'm like, they don't think this way.
Everyone gets a trophy, Joyce. Here, this is the Millennial Oscars. Everyone gets a trophy.
No,
And
it's not a participation class.
so I wonder if it is though. But I definitely PTA will probably win here. If he lost here, that would be a pretty big upset at this point.
Like who I don't even know, who do I have in second here? Hold on.
I have Adam McKay in second.
Oh yeah, I have Don't Look Up.
And I think that would probably play, but I wonder, does King Richard come on strong? And actually, if that win, I would not be totally shocked if King Richard won here. Zach Balin's script is not necessarily the strongest point of the movie when people talk about it, but it was a really good script. Obviously, a blacklist script. People really liked it. If there's affection for the movie, maybe it wins here. And of these nominees, it's the strongest Best Picture contender.
Yes. But yeah, like from a writing standpoint, I don't know. Like he's also like a known, so I feel like I feel like even though King Richard is like the maybe the bigger Best Picture player at the Oscars, that Licorice Pizza is the more respected script.
Right. Yeah, I think that's fair. I definitely think that's fair. For adapted screenplay, Joyce, the nominees were, again, lots of ineligible. So no Power of the Dog here, obviously, as we'll see. But Coda, West Side Story, Tick, Tick, Boom, Dune, Nightmare Alley. I had West Side Story and Tony Kushner here for the longest time.
I wish, God.
But I dropped it for Coda because obviously Coda has a...
Coda's going to win this.
Coda's going to win.
But it's only up against one of its Oscar rivals, which is Dune.
Correct.
So.
West Side Story, again, just absolutely criminal that script was not nominated.
I mean, if you're going to pick an adaptation of a previous, it's not even an adaptation of the previous movie, it's an adaptation of the stage production. I would go West Side Story because Nightmare Alley is also an adaptation.
Yes.
Or like the previous film.
Truly an offensive snub to me that he was not nominated at the Oscars.
But yeah, Coda will take this. So it'll look on paper really strong because it also won BAFTA, obviously, against actual like Oscar competition. But here it's just facing Dune, which has no shot of winning here.
So this goes to what I was saying, I think, when we talked on Sunday. I do wonder if it won BAFTA, not just because they like this, I just wonder without having it against Power of the Dog in Best Film, if you loved Coda and you were a BAFTA voter, the only places you could vote for were Troy Kotsur and then script. So if you divorce...
Well, they can vote for Amelia Jones in Best Actress.
Sure. But I mean, I think if you divorce if you love the movie, I guess you could say, I love the movie so much, Troy is going to represent the movie. But I do think you would think like picture or script or director would be how you show your love for the film itself, not just the performances. And I wonder how much that played a factor in it. And so if you were a Power of the Dog fan and you also loved Coda, then you were going to go Coda on script because you knew you were going to vote Power of the Dog for film. And I wonder with this at the Oscars, then how does that translate? When people have the opportunity to vote for Coda as their number one for Best Picture, then do they go for Power of the Dog, basically, for adapted screenplay? I don't know.
Well, I mean, for Best Picture at the Oscars, it's preferential, so you don't pick one. So I think you... like the ranking thing is just a completely separate beast, because also for either one of them to win, if you assume they're the top two, like they just need to be ranked higher relative to the other. It doesn't really matter if like the second place or like your lower choice is like in third place or like 10th, really.
Right.
If like it's just the two of them at the end. But like, I mean, like I said last time, like I personally don't vote like that. Like I would have to really, really, really love a movie for me to like completely check it down the ballot. Like I don't know if I were a Coda stan and I'm like, I need to vote for this movie at BAFTA, like I'm just gonna check it off an adapted screenplay, even if I don't think the screenplay was the best part, but I just really liked it.
I think
don't
people
know.
do vote.
But I think
like
the other thing is that if people are just like checking it out now, I think they could be caught up in like the immediate aftermath of emotion for it. Like if they just finished watching it, because BAFTA voting closed on March 8th. So after they won SAG, so if they're like, oh, I need to like check out Coda because it just won 2 awards, and oh my God, it made me cry past the Kleenex, I'm going to vote for it now. So I don't know, like maybe like, you know, Oscar voting starts tomorrow, maybe with like a little bit more distance since they've seen the film, like maybe they've settled down and they wouldn't immediately vote for it. I don't know. Because sometimes you're just like super reactionary in the moment.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And that's what I mean, like with the, I could just, it's weird. I could really see it losing adapted. I guess this is impossible, but I could really see it losing adapted screenplay at the Oscars and
Coda?
still winning Best Picture. Coda.
I think it would have to win screenplay to win Best Picture.
Possibly. I mean, that seems like the likely thing, but I don't
like
think
but then they will win all three, which is crazy to begin with.
Right. And I just wonder, like, if we're using, when we did this last week and we were predicting that we did not expect Coda to win there, right, at BAFTA. That's, I guess, my point.
If you told me Sunday morning that Coda was going to win a screenplay award, I would have said at Critics' Choice. Like, I don't think anyone thought Coda like would win adapted screenplay. Right. Again, not a slight.
No, it was just like the other four are just, the other three contenders in that category were Power of the Dog, Drive My Car, and Lost Daughter, and Dune. And you could argue all four of them had going into the weekend had bigger and better bona fides than Coda did as a screenplay.
And I would also argue that they're not to make this like difficulty points, like acting wise, like, ooh, like he suffered more while acting.
Oh, sure. Like they're more challenging.
Yeah. Like it's like, I think Dune is harder to adapt.
Right.
And Coda was.
Right. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out, and it's impossible to know, is that did it win at the BAFTA Awards because it was the best script, or because there was no other place to vote for it? And then how does that translate to the Oscars at all, if at all? Does that mean that it's like I guess I'm still not convinced, even if it wins WGA, which we expect it will, that the script itself is a front runner. I could still think that could go either way on Oscar night. But I do wonder that I don't know how that connected that is to its Best Picture chances. I know it seems like it has to win script for it to win Best Picture, but it could also lose script and still win Best Picture. I would not be surprised.
That would just break even more stats, because it's like Best Picture has either carried director or screenplay, and in the preferential era, it's usually more screenplay than director.
Yes,
so,
it would be like.
It can't win director.
It would just be unhinged. It really
would.
Like
when Green Book won screenplay, I was like, it's winning Best Picture.
Well, of course, right. Like that was like a key moment, but I could just see that happening here where it doesn't even win screenplay, and then we're still like, oh wow, Coda won Best Picture. I don't know. Let's do before we go. I guess we could do. We're out of film stuff here. Oh, I guess.
Documentary
screenplay, where the nominees were Becoming Cousteau, Like a Rolling Stone, and Exposing Muy Bridge.
I have Becoming Cousteau.
I have Becoming Cousteau also. Good for us. So why don't we continue through the TV stuff here? I think we could like kind of burn through these because they're pretty obvious, and except for maybe one, and then we could go back to PGA for TV. But for comedy series, the nominees were Ted Lasso, Hacks, Only Murders, Curb, Your Enthusiasm, and What We Do in the Shadows. I'm sticking with Ted Lasso, even though it's the WGA, and I could see like Hacks having more cachet.
I put Hacks in here in January, apparently. I don't know. Should I stick with it?
I mean, probably. I think it would not be unheard of for Ted Lasso to not win here. Hacks, I think, is the writer show. Right, but Hacks is like the writer show, it feels like.
Yeah.
That is seemingly what it is.
So I don't know. I don't know if I'll keep that, because like Ted is the safer choice, obviously.
Right.
But you know, Hacks won the Emmy over Ted, which had multiple episodes.
Right. So that would be the reason Hacks would win, but it's not only one Ted here versus one Hacks, right? Or the group of cumulativeness. I don't know. I'm sticking Ted Lasso, but I think Hacks could win. Great commentary.
Yeah, I think Hacks will win another category here as well. So I don't know if I want to keep it 2 for 2.
So that's why I kept it. But so we'll move on to drama series choice. The nominees were Succession, Yellow Jackets, Loki, Morning Show, and Handmaid's Tale. Succession, all the way.
I'm gonna go with Loki. No,
nice.
I wish. Succession, congratulations. It'll probably sweep this weekend.
Yeah, I think so. For new TV series, Joyce, this is what you were talking about for Hacks. The nominees were Hacks, Only Murders, Yellow Jackets, Loki, and Reservation Dogs. I have Hacks here, which is why I think Ted Lasso will win in the comedy series category.
I also wonder, like if Yellow Jackets could win here.
So I think if Hacks wins comedy, then they could give Yellow Jackets here. And I guess then you have to wonder, are Yellow Jackets and Hacks more beloved at the moment than Ted Lasso?
Well, Hacks is older because it finished airing its first season before season 2 of Ted even premiered.
Right.
Obviously Yellow Jackets is the most recent. So, and I don't think either, because we don't predict the episodic categories here, but I don't think either Ted or Hacks had a episode nominated. I should look that up. I don't think they did. So yeah, I think I'm not going to predict Yellow Jackets, but I could see it winning.
Very sharp show. People like it. So
yeah, okay, episodic comedy. Yeah, it's Dave the Great, Only Murders in a Building, Reservation Dogs, Superstore, and The Wonder Years. Yeah, so neither of them have an episode nominated.
Interesting. For variety talk series, the nominees were Conan, Last Week Tonight, Thesis and Marrow, and The Problem with Jon Stewart. I'm going with Conan just for like nostalgia factor. I don't think last year I think Thesis and Marrow won. John Oliver's won in the past, so those would probably be the two favorites. But yeah, I'm like Conan, last hurrah, why not?
I would love for him to win. I guess with like Thesis and Marrow winning last year, like that's precedent for someone else winning besides like John Oliver, unlike at the Emmys. Correct.
And I don't know how much people actually pay attention to this, and I can't say I'm the biggest Conan watcher, but I can say that the John Oliver, not as memorable as, it's the same show. It's a good show, obviously, but I was like, there was nothing for the last season of John Oliver that stood out as a thing you could point to as a reason. You know, that's, I guess, but I don't know. People love John Oliver, Last Week Tonight, so it's like they just kind of vote for it. That's seemingly how it wins all the Emmys.
It's kind of a lazy choice,
right? So
yeah, they should give it to Conan. I have John Oliver. Maybe should I switch to Conan? I don't know if I'm gonna go out on a limb for two things here with Hacks.
I'm going out on a limb with Conan. You could go out on a limb with Hacks, I guess, but Conan's your boy. You love Conan.
I love Conan. I know. Listen, we predicted his Emmy nomination.
Yes,
so he wasn't gonna win.
No. For variety sketch series, the nominees were SNL. I think You Should Leave, How To with John Wilson, That Damn Michael Che, and Pause with Sam Joy. I went with SNL.
Yes.
And then for long form adapted, Underground Railroad made WandaVision, Impeachment, and Halston. And I went with Underground Railroad. Great adaptation.
Yeah, I need to switch to Underground Railroad because I put in WandaVision just to support it in January. Nice. But I'm very glad Underground Railroad is having a better winter season than it did at Emmys. It got really hosed with its like premiere or like its release, like all the episodes at once, which is a hard sit.
It was a hard sit, and it's funny that Amazon has moved off of that. The Mrs. Maisel, they were doing 2 episodes a week to finish it out. And I think that Underground Railroad would have benefited greatly from that kind of rollout. That said, it always seemed like more of a industry, like guild.
Well, Emmys is industry. I just think it was a late date, and I know why they wanted to do it late, but all at once was just like rough.
Yeah.
For that. But it's Barry Jenkins won WGA, so Thuso's won that their new like TV Spirit Award, and won a Globe. So yeah.
And then original long form, Joyce, the nominees were Mayor of Easttown, White Lotus, Midnight Mass, Them, and American Horror Story double feature. And I got our pals at Mayor of Easttown winning.
I have that too. I think is the favorite White Lotus, and I could see that winning. But I just like really love the like Mayor in general, but that script does so much and it's so subtle. But I could see White Lotus winning, although it hasn't performed as strongly like during its Guild run, and Mayor is obviously stronger. So right,
I'm gonna stick with Mayor. I think White Lotus is good, and Mike White I think did a great job with it. But I think Mayor is. I think they're gonna stick with the blockbuster appeal of Mayor. Back to the PGA. So we're swinging back to the TV PGAs. Drama series with Succession, Squid Game, Yellowstone, Handmaid's Tale, and Morning Show. I'm sticking with Succession here, But I think if there's anywhere that Squid Game could actually win a best series, it's here, because like if we consider like producers as a metric of success, and Squid Game is like the most popular show in the last few years. So I could see winning, but I'm going to stick with Succession.
I'm just doing Succession. So.
Yeah. Ted Lasso, Hacks, Only Murders, Cobra Kai, and Curb for TV comedy series. Ted Lasso.
Yes, Ted. I don't know. Yeah, this is kind of boring.
Yeah, Mayor. Limited series was Mayor, White Lotus, WandaVision, Underground Railroad, and Dope Sick. I'm sticking with Mayor.
Yes, I have Mayor.
TV movie. This one a little different than some of the ones we've done in the past. Oslo, Single All the Way, Robin Roberts presents Mahalia, Come From Away, 8-Bit Christmas, and Tom Petty, Somewhere You Are Feel Free. I put Oslo in the top here. It feels like any of number of these could win, but
I mean, it like you could tell me any of them is winning, and I'll be like, sure.
Yeah.
So
strange.
I guess Oslo is the safest.
I think so, and it won, I think, at the Critics' Choice Awards, I believe, in this category. So. For TV variety program, John Oliver, SNL, Colbert, Daily Show, and Dave Chappelle, The Closer. Last week, John Oliver for sure. Reality series, RuPaul, Top Chef, America's Got Talent, The Voice, and Nailed It. I went with RuPaul.
I have RuPaul, but I think it'll be cool if Top Chef won, because that was one of its most acclaimed seasons in years last year. So
I have Top Chef.
That would show like taste, and like they're actually paying attention if it won.
Right. Yeah, I have it in second. And then the last one here, best nonfiction series, actually pretty cool category. The Beatles Get Back, Alan vs. Pharaoh, Queer Eye, Stanley Tucci Searching for Italy in 60 Minutes. I went The Beatles Get Back.
Yes, same. Although it'll be great if the Tucci won.
Be very fun if Tucci won, but I think that's it. So those are our PGA and WGA winner predictions. And yeah, so we'll see what happens. I mean, Power of the Dog over Coda. I think you'll have more proof that Power of the Dog is a front runner, and probably continuing on if it wins. If it loses, I think Coda will become more of a more popular pick, but I still don't think
that's assuming like Coda wins. Because the other thing is, we should have talked about this earlier, is like I don't like, everyone's been searching for the alternative to Power of the Dog, right? But there's been no solid number two, and now you're just assuming Coda is number two,
right?
So, but what if it's still, that's support for number two is still fractured,
which it might be.
Yeah, and it won't be enough for any of them to overtake Power of the Dog.
Right. In a preferential ballot, you could argue that Belfast obviously has a strong pocket of support, that West Side Story probably still has a bunch of stands out there, and that King Richard is like remains a strong.
Yeah, and like Power of the Dog could be the number two for all of those people.
And like we had said
before, if they don't
before,
love it, they could just like respect it and admire
that
it.
was like kind of like we talked about that way back when, that it felt like Power of the Dog was the obvious front runner, because no matter who you are, save Sam Elliott, you were like, Power of the Dog is either okay, it's good, or it's a masterpiece. It wasn't like polarizing at all, really.
No, and it's weird because like there is like anti-dog sentiment out there.
Now it is.
Yeah, now, but I think it's not because people actually hate the movie Sam Elliott, but it's because they're just tired of it being the front runner, so they're looking for something. And like Belfast hasn't really performed as a solid number two yet.
And I wonder how savvy do you think the voters are? Like, obviously in a preferential ballot, if you were like, I want Coda to win, I also like Power of the Dog, I don't
think most voters are that savvy. I don't think a lot of them understand how it works.
I don't either. And I don't, so like you would want to bury Power of the Dog at the bottom of your ballot, basically, right? Like on as much as possible. And
but again, it just, that you would also have
it.
to assume that like Coda and Power of the Dog will be the remaining two films there, and you just have no way of knowing that.
Correct. So, and I do think while Coda has presented itself as a very popular pick, those other movies that we mentioned are all still strong contenders and have big support, I think. Obviously, King Richard is possibly going to win 2 Oscars, right? Like Best Actor and Best Editing. Belfast, we were just talking about as like a player for maybe screenplay. These are like major awards. West Side Story has Best Supporting Actress and, you know, should have had way more, but alas.
It could still like maybe sneak out a craft category, because I don't know about Dune completely dominating below the line.
So you had suggested perhaps that we end up with like a West Side Story production design win.
I mean, that's I wanted to pull a Lincoln.
And I guess the case for that is while Dune has dominated and Nightmare Alley has seemed like a good option, do they like kind of cancel each other out because there's equal support in Dune and West Side Story kind of like swoops in, perhaps? I don't know.
I mean, yeah, it could. The other thing is like Dune, I don't know. I mean, like the editing category is like completely haywire. And like everyone thought Dune was winning and it hasn't actually won anything.
Yeah, I still have King Richard there. The funny thing is, if West Side Story was nominated, I absolutely think it would win.
Oh yeah, it was completely robbed blind. At least it won Critics' Choice.
It's pretty wild. Like with the way the nominees have shaken out and the way the season is shaken out, like West Side Story probably would have won editing if it was
like
in there.
That was impeccable editing. The entire sequence from Dance at a Gym through Tonight is like
it's ridiculous, and it's so funny to me that I'm just like, it didn't even get nominated yet. If it was nominated,
the
it would straight up
Guild
win.
really killed its like Best Picture momentum. Like there were a lot of hiccups along the way, but the Guild's like really
brutal,
rough, so rude. But
Joyce,
I don't know if like Dune will sweep everything. Like we were predicting that for it at the BAFTAs as well, and it didn't do that there. So
no, I don't think it's going to win editing, and we'll see if it wins production design. I kind of think it will, because like I said, they went out into outer space, Joyce. They built all these things on other
outer
planets.
Space is real.
So real. Last thing, Joyce, before we wrap up, the Oscar broadcast continues to be kind of a dumpster fire a little. So they're going ahead with the 8 categories in the pre-show, and we have talked about like at what point does one of the actors say they're not going to go out? The idea was they want the actors and the top line talent, perhaps, to be on the red carpet between 7 and 8 for ABC to do the pomp and circumstance, while the crafts people are in the theater getting their Oscars. Sets up kind of an awkward situation because you could have, major winners who have actors to thank not in the room, or directors or whatever it is. And we were wondering when that was going to when that dam was going to break, and it seemingly broke this week with Jessica Chastain, who is still the front runner for Best Actress, ready to pull an Iron Lady with her hair and makeup team bringing them along for an Oscar as well. And that means the hair and makeup team are going to win, while Jessica Chastain is talking to Mark Malkin or whoever on the red carpet. And she said this week on the Next Best Picture podcast, she absolutely, quote, will be present when the makeup team and the makeup category is being called. And if that means I'm not doing press on the red carpet or ABC or whatever it is, then so be it. And she went on to say, the most important thing for me is to honor the incredible artisans who work in our industry. That seems like it could be like the first launch of many of these performers doing something similar.
I think they should all do. I think even if your film is not nominated in one of those 8 categories, you should just skip the carpet and go in there and support them.
So you would say like the hair and makeup, like would Lady Gaga decide to skip the carpet to go in to see if her team wins, perhaps, right? Because House of Gucci is a contender.
No one on the carpet.
It could. This could be the first of what could
and
be
also I like
awkward thing.
If Jessica wins, she should absolutely bring her hair and makeup team up on stage with her. Like
you wonder if that could happen.
Do that. Like
I honestly think that could happen for a lot of these. Like, I mean, Will Smith obviously is another one. So King Richard,
editing, like bring Pamela Martin up if she wins, and it wasn't broadcast live, and they edited her speech into the broadcast.
Or like if West Side Story somehow wins production design for Ariana DeBose to go and do that as well. It's pretty wild, I think. Or, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I do wonder how many more of these stars will do this. But kudos to Jessica Chastain for being the first up here to say that she's not going to.
Production design is not one of the 8, is it? I don't think.
I thought it was one of the 8.
Was it? I don't remember anymore.
I believe the 8 categories. I have it here. Hold on.
Oh yeah, no, they just kept the categories with a Disney like contender, like Cruella, like costumes.
Right.
Oh yeah, and then the presenters, we're gonna have like a Disney princess reunion.
So you had this. Did you go through your whiteboard on that? Tell me why.
I need to pull up the presenters. Where's yesterday's presenter? Do you have yesterday's announcement?
Let me look. Hang on. I do have it here. Hang on. Let's see. This is scintillating stuff as we.
I know. Just
the presenters that they announced. The presenters they announced yesterday included Halle Bailey, Puff Daddy, Jamie Lee Curtis, Woody Harrelson, Samuel L. Jackson, Shawn Mendes, Tyler Perry, and Tracee Ellis Ross. Previously announced presenters include Ruth Carter, Kevin Costner, Anthony Hopkins, Lily James, Daniel Kaluuya, Zoe Kravitz, Mila Kunis, Lady Gaga, John Leguizamo, Simu Lee, Rami Malek, Lupita Nyong'o, Rosie Perez, Chris Rock, Naomi Scott, Wesley Snipes, Uma Thurman, John Travolta, and Yoo Jung-yoon. So some of those names stood out to you, Joyce. Explain.
Yeah. So as we know, they want to do like reunions, right?
Yes, that was the rumor that they want to do.
Yeah, and like you can figure out some possible film reunions among these names, but they did like yesterday did Halle Bailey, not Halle Berry, which a lot of people thought who it was. And as you know, previously announced, Lily James and Naomi Scott, they've all played or are playing Disney princesses: Ariel, Cinderella, and Jasmine from Aladdin. And you know, as we know, another version of Cinderella is up for #Oscars fan favorite, the Camila Cabello version. So what if that wins and they present it to them?
So it seems like that when they first announced that the fan favorite voting was going on, that was the surprise jump ahead winner, right? It was ahead of even Justice League, which is not eligible, and Army of the Dead, and Johnny Depp's Minimata, and it was Cinderella, even ahead of Spider-Man. And yes, this is definitely, the tea leaves are there to say that it is perhaps Cinderella that they'll be presenting.
Because voting closed March 3rd. I don't know why they closed it so early.
So they get their ducks in a row, I guess, to get this ready.
Line up, yeah, and then they could preview The Little Mermaid.
Correct, and or Snow White, because Rachel Zegler is playing Snow White and could also be in attendance. So
she's in London though. They're gonna like zoom her in.
Yeah, well, they probably bring her in, right, for the show. I mean, she's gonna support her movie. I'm sure she'll get like a dispensation to come. The other reunions here.
So are you saying she's gonna be the next batch of presenters?
Yes, I do think she'll be the next batch of presenters. Absolutely. The other reunions here that I could see just like kind of put these words together: Uma Thurman, John Travolta, and Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, you could like figure that out.
Pulp Fiction, Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and Rosie Perez for White Men Can't Jump. That'll be fun.
You know, great choice, because I don't think a lot of people would have clocked that one.
No, that's awesome though.
Yeah.
What else did you see here? Any other ones?
I don't think so, but I think with some of these names, you could just be like, oh, they're gonna announce their song nominee, like Mila Kunis, for like 4 Good Days. You know, they haven't announced the song performances yet, but you could see that happening.
John Leguizamo for Encanto.
Yeah. Not Bruno though.
Right. Yeah, interesting stuff there. I'll be excited to see what other reunions they have. I think the biggest rumor or hope diction was that you would have the Godfather cast reunite to present Best Picture.
It was 50 years this week, the anniversary.
Right. So that would be pretty dope if you have like Robert Duvall, Al Pacino, James Caan, Diane Keaton, and Francis Ford Coppola come on out
to do Best Picture.
Yeah, and give it to Coda.
Exactly. Which one of them is going to read it? Should they read it in unison?
Based on that group, I would say probably Al would read it, I think. Maybe Diane Keaton.
He would add a flourish to it.
Or maybe Al and Diane Keaton together could do it.
Did you read his New York Times interview for the anniversary? It was great.
I did read his New York Times interview for his anniversary. I cannot get enough Godfather anniversary stuff, Joyce. I feel like we've been doing Godfather anniversary stuff for 2 years, because last year they released the Coppola director's cut of Part 3, and they did a ton of press around that as well. I interviewed Diane Keaton for that. She was a hoot. Part 3 is still a good
when is
movie.
she not?
She was awesome. I think she had, when I was talking to her while on her phone, she was like, somebody came because she potentially had a gas leak in her house that was getting fixed. Super funny.
Oh, that's dangerous.
Yeah, no, she was fine though. Everything was fine. So she was great. But yeah, I love the Godfather stuff. Weigh in on the reunion.
I would prefer that they don't announce that. Like, you know, the first time they didn't announce Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway.
Right.
Or even though people were kind of like, oh, Bonnie and Clyde 50 years, like you should do it, and then they did it, and,
right?
You know, and then we had Envelope Gate. So
amazing. All right, Joyce. We'll talk again soon.
I guess next week is our final predictions.
Yeah, I do want to read you one last thing before we go. I saw this just now. Last thing, promise. This is Jared Leto on Lady Gaga's Oscar snub, Joyce. It was a shock and a surprise. She should get an invite to every Oscars just to have her there. She's an amazing artist who does such brave work. She should be celebrated for everything in my book. Jared Leto, we salute you. That's great.
I love his undying devotion.
Amazing. He loves, Paolo loves Lady Gaga.
Like she soars like a pigeon in his world. So every year, huh?
All right,
I mean,
Joyce.
she's going this year, so
she is going again. Yeah, she'll present something, right? Or is she going?
She's presenting something, and then I think she's gonna like book it back to the party that she's hosting with Elton John. So
right.
Yeah.
All right, Joyce. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.